Well guys, we're heading to Arizona where it's warm, although I'm gonna miss this view. It's so pretty here. We didn't get snow this time. For safety, I stand to the side to watch him. And then we click and we're good. Mr. Smarty and the frosty windows. There you have it, kids.
We pull our 45-foot toy hauler with this semi-truck that we've converted into an RV hauler. Now, anytime you're operating a Class 8 truck like ours, you're going to have one issue, and that's visibility. Now you can see our truck has a really nice comprehensive mirror package, but there's still a couple areas that we can't see. One main area is the hitch. When I'm backing the truck up to hook up to the fifth wheel, I can't see the hitch. So in order to remedy that, I had a camera mounted on the back so I could see the hitch. Now, the second place that I have trouble with visibility is, of course, the back of the toy hauler. Whether we're going down the highway or whether we're maneuvering in an RV park, I just simply can't see behind the RV. Now, I always have Tina get out with a walkie-talkie, and she always makes sure everything's clear and we work together as a team to get parked. But I just can't look and see behind me like I might want to in certain situations. So our toy hauler came equipped with a rear view camera. You can see our rear view camera is right there, and that's a Voyager system that I'm going to be removing, and we're going to talk about a wireless solution today, so stick with me. Alright, so let's go ahead and unbox this and check it out. This is the Haloview system. You can see here, Haloview. And let me get this. And here's the label. So you can see here, this is the 7-inch range Dominator RD-7 kit. And we've also requested an additional camera from them. This camera is the CA108. This is the camera we're going to use on the back of the RV. And then inside this box is the camera we're going to use for our hitch view. Now, I've already opened this box, so just full transparency, Haloview did send us this kit to install and test free of charge. So this is a sponsored video, but I wanted to show this to you guys, show you how we install it, and then show you how it performs. Alright, so like I said, I've already opened this box, but inside the box you're going to get the user manual, which is pretty comprehensive. It's not very thick, but it's got really good instruction. And you're going to get the camera specs. And then you're going to get the 7-inch display here. It actually comes with a really cool sticky mount, but this is the RD-7 display. And I've already, started removing the film and that sort of thing, but we'll get back to that later. This kit also comes with all the wiring that you need to connect your RD-7. Here's that really cool mount. And it even comes with the wire for the triggers. We'll talk about that here in a second. And some additional jumper wires and that sort of thing. So it pretty much comes with everything you need to do this install. So let me get these parts spread out on the table, and then we'll talk about them a little further. Okay, so you can see here that this kit comes with everything you need to do this install, but let's go over the parts specifically. Now, this is the layout for the camera that's going to go on the back of the RV, and the reason it needs a cord is because it has an extender. So you're going to take this Y cable, you're going to connect the camera here, you're going to connect this power cord here. It's got a nice O-ring, it's waterproof, and it locks into this, and this goes to your 10 to 32 volt power supply right here. So that's going to provide power to the camera. Then you're going to take this extension wire, it's going to connect to the other end of the Y harness, and it's going to run to the front of your RV. In our case, the RV is 45 feet long. So we want to get this wireless transmitter with the antenna as close to the cab of the truck as we can. So this is going to be in the front of the RV on the roof, and this extension wire is going to carry this wireless signal all the way back to the camera on the back of the RV through this wire, and this will provide a really good wireless connection inside the cab. Because our truck is so much longer, this is what's required. Now, even for you guys who are pulling with a standard pickup truck, a dually or single wheel, whichever, if you're pulling a long 45 foot or so fifth wheel or travel trailer, you're probably going to want this wireless transmitter extension setup like I'm showing here. And the reason for that is our current Voyager system is not extended like this. The antenna is actually on the very back of the RV on the camera. And what that does is, over a certain speed, over about 50 or 55 miles per hour, I actually lose the signal to the rear camera. So that's pretty much the basic setup of how this is going to go on the roof of the RV. I'll go into a little more depth when I mount it. You can see here it actually comes with these little stick down zip tie type holders for the cord, so you can fasten it to the roof. Comes with a high bond 3M sticky tape to mount this to the roof, or you can mount it with the associated hardware. You can see here we got the 7-inch monitor. This is the antenna that goes on the monitor, and these are labeled, so it's pretty easy to know what goes where. One thing I do like about this monitor, it does have sound, so that you can listen to whichever camera you have pulled up on the screen, and you can move the sound to each different camera. It's thinner than the Voyager system, and let me show you a comparison. So this is the old Voyager, and you can see how much thicker it is, and it's quite a bit heavier. So that's one advantage. This is much smaller and lighter, much easier to mount, and all it requires is power because these cameras are all wireless. One other good thing about this is you can add up to 128 gig memory card, and this will record all 4 video channels that it's capable of receiving. We'll go through the setup of this later on once we get it installed, but those are kind of the highlights of the monitor. Now, in order to hook power up to this monitor, you have a couple of choices. This cord will connect directly to the camera, or I'm sorry, to the monitor, and it has the red and the black for power and ground, and then it also has these trigger wires. Let's say you're going to install a camera on the sides of your rig, and when you turn your left signal on, you want to be able to see that camera so you can see clear down the side of your rig. So you would hook that camera to one of these trigger wires, and when you turn your signal on, you hook it to your signal wire in your vehicle, and it will turn on that camera. We're not going to use this in our application because we're just going to have the camera on the back of the RV and the camera on the hitch. I want to be able to look at those cameras all the time regardless, so I'm not going to hook them up to a trigger. I'm just going to have them hot so I can look at them and see whenever I want. Now, in a future upgrade, we're going to add 2 additional cameras, because this is a 4-camera system. We're going to put the 3rd camera in the dash of the truck for a web or a dash cam, and then we're going to put the 4th camera on top of the drum box so that we can see the top of the smart car and the bed of the truck while we're going down the highway. You can see here it also comes with associated hardware to mount the display, and you have a couple mounting options. You have this really cool little mount that's sticky that will stick on your dash, and it's adjustable. I mean, it's got a pretty wide range of adjustment, and it slides up into the slot on the back of the monitor and tightens down. So this is the one we're actually going to use, and I'll show you that a little bit later. It also comes with this bracket, so you can bolt this bracket to the sides of the monitor like such, and you could bolt it to your dash or to a cabinet, or depending on your setup, but it also does come with this permanent bracket. It also comes with a shade hood, so you put this shade hood over the monitor like such, and you can see it'll provide you some shade from the glaring sun. I don't know in our application that we're going to need to use that, but we have it in case we need it. The second option for power, actually, that I forgot to mention is the cigarette lighter adapter, and it's got a switch on it right here, so you can turn it off and on. That's how we're going to do it in our application. Now let's get to the camera that we're going to use for our actual hitch view, and this is the C109, the little camera, and I've already got it set up here kind of with the antenna, and I've already got the bolts in it because I'm going to go out in here in a minute and mount this on the back of the truck. And of course it's got another power cord that adapts to it, and this will actually connect directly to the camera and again to your 12-volt supply. So you've got everything you really need to connect to the system and to hook it up. It's even got thumb screws for this bracket, so it's a pretty inclusive system. I'm really kind of pleased with it. Now, one thing I did notice that I really like about the system are these cameras. Now, this camera is quite heavy. This is all metal. Everything, the hood, the case, the bracket, everything on this camera is metal, and the same with this camera. Now, this piece here is plastic, this little mounting part with the antenna on it, but everything else is metal. This camera is adjustable, so you can turn it this way and adjust it. This is really designed also to go on like the front license plate of a vehicle for a front dash cam. We're going to use a second one of these, or actually it'll be the third camera, to mount in the windshield for a dash cam, but that'll be in a future episode, a future update. This is the RD-7 Mini, and again we're using camera CA109 for our hitch view, and we're using camera CA613 for the back of our RV, along with the wireless transmitter that comes in the kit to extend our range on our camera. So let's go ahead and go outside and get these installed, and let's check them out. So I've already removed the Voyager camera from the hitch view on the truck, and you can see here I had to fabricate a bracket for the new camera because it mounts slightly differently. So here's the new bracket I've fabricated and mounted, and I've already gone ahead and mounted the CA109 here on that bracket for the hitch view. As I mentioned before, the only thing that is required to hook up these cameras is 12-volt power. So I've ran a wire from the dash of the truck from a switch all the way to the back so that I can turn the camera on and off. All right, kind of like that. This is the adjustability I was talking about. So you can adjust this view. We'll probably leave it about like that. I might have to notch it down one to see the pin, but we can adjust that later. Got the little antenna. Make sure it's good and tight, and it looks kind of like that. There's my grommet, and I can unplug this camera and pull it off anytime. I've also already removed the backup camera from the RV, and we're going to be replacing it with the CA613 camera out of this kit, and we're going to also be installing the extender. They've got this wired into the park lights, so when I turn my park lights on I get power. So I'm going to pull this light out and see if I can hook my new one up the same way. Okay, so here's where they spliced into this light right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these wires. I'm going to splice into these wires with my new one, and then this old camera will still be functional for someone else and they can hook it up the same way. Okay, so I cleaned the surface and I put some butyl tape. This is our new bracket, and I'm able to use the same 4 holes. So I'm just going to go right back in to where the other one was mounted. I ran my power wire in where the old grommet was and reconnected it to the existing wire for the old camera. Now, if you're installing this camera for the first time, you can do the same thing. You can splice into the wires on the park light, provide 12 volts that way, or you can run from a different 12-volt source. I'm going to go ahead and push all this back in here. I'm going to reinstall my light, and then we're going to go up on the roof and install the rest of the extension piece for this camera. It mounted pretty well. I've got it all sealed up, so I think we're good to go. Okay, so here's my 2 wires coming up from my camera. So this is power that we wired into the light, and this is the actual camera connection that we're going to connect to the extended transmitter. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this grommet because I don't need it for my application. So I just cut it and take it off. And then we're going to get our Y adapter. Now this is power, so this locks in, twist it and turn, and that locks in with an O-ring. And then our camera plugs into here. And then they gave us a simple little boot to slide down over to protect it from the elements. I'm going to go ahead and put a zip tie right here just to hold these wires good and kind of keep them together. Then I'm going to use one of their little standoffs here on the edge. These are pretty neat because they lock and you can unlock them, so you can see that they lock. And then I got a little acetone, and very carefully I'm going to clean the spot on the roof to stick this to. Now this right here is not a roof repair. This is actually a piece of Eternabond tape I used to hold down a wire that used to come across here that I've eliminated. I'm going to put this right here. You can see how that cleans. Then we'll peel off the backing and we'll stick it down just like that. Okay, now we're going to run extension here, and I'm going to run it all along the side, and we're going to run it up the roof. Now this is the extension wire, 12 meters. So we're going to hook it and we're going to run it and see how far it goes, and then we'll install this repeater on the very end of the wire. Now you can see this cord runs clear up to the front of the RV here. So I'm going to go ahead and mount my repeater, something like that. Get it connected as well. There we go. So I think I'm going to mount that right about there. Now one cool thing about this repeater, it does have a button on the side to sync it if you ever have to sync it. So we'll see how well they read each other once we get it all hooked up. But I think that's where I'm going to mount it, and I'm just going to use that double-sided tape, and I'm going to stick it down right there, and then I'm going to go back through all the way down and put those little clips on. So let me get that going. So I had enough of these little clips to go about every, I don't know, 30 inches or so, maybe a little closer. All right, so I've cleaned the roof here, applied this VHB tape patch, and that's where I'm going to put my repeater, and I cleaned the back of it as well. So just peel this off. There we go, and stick the repeater there and give it a little pressure, and it'll stick, and it shouldn't come off. Make sure our antenna's tight. There we go. And then I've completed cleaning and attaching all the way down the roof, as you can see. So this part of the job is done. Now it's time to go down and hook up the monitor, and we're gonna activate the park lights on the RV and make sure that this works. All right guys, so we're here in the cab of the Volvo, and this is where I'm going to be mounting my display. This is that little sticky mount that we talked about. I'm going to mount it right here, just like that. Now what I've done, and this is specific to my Volvo application, may not apply to you guys, but this is actually a bank of switches just like this. And what I did is I moved the 2 or 3 switches they had here, and I put them over here in this cluster. And this first aux switch is what powers my GPS and the camera system. I've wired up a little 3-part cigarette lighter plug, and I plugged in my GPS, and then this is the plug for the camera. Like I said, mount the monitor here, and then I'm going to run the wire through this little hole, and it'll plug into my 12-volt power source here. So this is really pretty simple. What I did is I took a real thin piece of sheet metal, and I used some high bond 3M tape, and I just cut this sheet metal out, and I cleaned it really well, and I painted it black, and then I 3M taped it to the bezel here around this. So if I ever want to take this off and put these switches back, I can do that. Then I took this sticky pad, and I don't know if you can tell, but it's kind of curved a little bit, and it's got these fingers, and it's metal, so you can bend it. And I bent it to kind of match the contour of this dash so that it's got really good surface area. And then I'm just going to kind of eyeball this and line it up. One cool thing about it is the slot on the back of the monitor allows for some adjustment up and down. So I'm going to put this kind of at the top of this space and a little bit to the right. I don't know if this is high bond tape on this mount. My guess is that it probably is. We'll see how well it sticks. If I have to, if it comes off, I can go back and put a layer of high bond tape on the back of it and restick it. You see these holes here, right there. Now you can come back and put screws in here to kind of stiffen it up, and I may have to do that, and I can do that through the sheet metal without damaging the truck. That should work out great. Let's go ahead and slide the monitor on it. And you can see the slot in the back goes over that pin, just like that. And we'll tighten this up against the back. You can see here, tighten this knob, just like that. And then tighten that knob. That gives me my angle. And then, sitting here in the cab, that's actually a pretty good angle. I can still see my gauges. Now I can run this wire through this hole, pull it up behind the dash and hide it, and plug it into my 12-volt power source. I went ahead and put some electrical tape around these connections on this adapter just so it won't pop loose under the dash here. Threw a zip tie on it, and these are just going to ride right here on top of that fuse box. Not going to hurt anything. Okay guys, here you go. So here's camera 1, which is my hitch view, and there's the rear camera that we installed. So there's a full view of the rear camera, the hitch. There is no camera 2, no camera 3, and that's my backup camera, and you can see these lines. So that's another cool feature of this system. It has the backup lines, and I'm going to turn those off. So I'm going to go to menu, and you see you've got volume, picture, mirror, Q mode, settings, auto scan, park line, menu. We're going to arrow to park line, and we're going to press OK, and then we're going to press OK, arrow to off, press OK. You can see here that you can put it on any one of your cameras. So if your camera 1 happens to be your backup camera, you can move the display of the park line. So that's another really cool feature. Let's go to this Q mode, and I'll show you the different options you have. So you've got all these different options to show 1, 2, or 3, or 4 cameras. I have mine on the 4 camera mode so that I can see all 4 cameras. Again, my future update is to put a camera in the windshield and to put a camera on top of the drum box so I can see the bed of the truck. So that's coming up in another video. Okay, so you can see my lines are off, so I turned those off. And if I go through the select, it'll go from this 4 camera view to the single camera view, cam 1, cam 2, cam 3, and cam 4. For my everyday driving needs, I'm going to leave it in this view just so I can have an eye on what's going on behind me and what's going on with my hitch. And when you're in this mode, you see this little sound symbol. You can use these arrows to move that sound symbol between views. So you can see it's a pretty comprehensive menu. You can adjust the picture, the tone, all that kind of stuff. So I was telling you about the record option. I'm going to put a 120 gig card in this, and then I can go and set this up. Now cover, what that means is that when this card gets full, it'll start to overwrite the card from the beginning. So I'll have to make sure, empty the card out so I don't lose any footage. But that's my plan. I can format the card, and I can turn record on and off. So we'll be running record all the time on all 4 of our channels, and then that way I've got footage to use in videos. I've got security when it comes to crashes and that sort of thing. That's the beautiful part about this Haloview system. Now the only thing left to do is go out and drive it. We're going to hook up to the fifth wheel and we're going to take it out and check our range, make sure that we have a strong signal. So we're going to test it hooked up. All right, here we go. We're driving. There's our rear camera. You can see we got a really good signal on that camera with the fifth wheel attached, so I don't think we're going to have any issues there. Now let me switch. There's my 4-camera view. Now of course I only have 2 cameras, but you can see the hitch view. And let me switch again.
At the traffic light.
And there's our hitch view. So you can see really clear video. I'm really happy with it, and they're all wireless, so that's an extra bonus. Well, you can see it's a pretty comprehensive system, but let's talk about pros and cons for just a minute. We'll start with the cons. I really don't have many. This is a pretty high-end system. But a couple things that I would point out. One, it'd be nice if the monitor was a little bit larger, maybe 9 or 10 inch instead of 7, and that's just because I'm getting older and, you know, it'd be nice to have a bigger screen. But especially when you're looking at 4 cameras on the screen, it'd be nice if they were a little bit bigger. The second thing would be the fact that the antenna on the monitor is so tall. It really prevents you from mounting the unit overhead, like up here somewhere in your truck. You know, in an HDT you have a lot of headspace, and it would be nice to be able to mount it up here to where I can glance up at it if I need to, but the antenna on top is so tall that it would hit the edge of the cabinet here. As far as the instruction booklet goes, it's pretty good. It leaves some interpretation, so you have to make sure that you go through it thoroughly, go through all your components, and make sure you get a good idea of how everything goes together before you start your install. So that's just a quick pointer. And then the last con I would point out, at least for my application, if you're installing this camera on your hitch, you may need to run a 12-volt wire from the cockpit clear back to the camera like I did. I just did that because I wanted to be able to switch the camera on and off. Now you could wire them into the taillights of the truck. It'd be a lot closer to a 12-volt source, but then the camera's only going to work when you have your park lights on. Like on the RV, that's how I have it wired, but on my truck here I have it wired to where I can flip it on and off. So that's another thing to consider. You know, if you're getting ready to install one of these, make sure you've got plenty of extra spare wire on hand and that sort of thing if you're going to do the install like I did mine. Now for the pros, and there's quite a long list. I'm really impressed with this system. The very first thing that impresses me is the fact that it's wireless. In addition to that, the fact that the video is clear. When I notice when I'm driving, I'm looking at the rear camera, there's no stitchiness, there's no delays in the image like with our old system. Sometimes the image would delay or it would go out completely, but with this one, I had a full 4 or 5 bars on the antenna the entire time. It's quite a ways back there, so with that extension and that transmitter up front here, it really makes a huge difference. And that leads me into the second pro. The fact that it comes with the extender, signal extender, that's a game changer, because these RVs are so long now, and combined with the truck, I know that my old Voyager system would never have allowed the signal to be as consistent, as clear, and as stable as it is with this extension for the rear wireless camera. I mentioned this in the beginning of the video. These cameras are in metal cases. They're super durable. They're really high-end and high quality, and I was impressed with that, because a lot of the stuff nowadays that you get, especially for these types of applications, is made out of plastic. Seems like almost everything is made out of plastic. So the fact that these cameras are in metal cases and their mounts are durable, they're strong, and I'm really impressed with the kind of attention to detail they put into this system. For the price, it's a bargain, and I think you'd be perfectly happy installing a Haloview system for yourself. Okay, so 2 more pros. The first one, you can record all 4 video channels at the same time. You put the SIM card in the monitor and you're able to record whatever's displayed on the screen. So having that split view is important if you want to record all of your video, and then that way you have that, you know, for safety reasons or for YouTube or for whatever purpose you're recording it for. And with my old system, I couldn't do that. I couldn't record it all. So the fact that I can record 1 to 4 video channel feeds on this one is amazing for me. And then finally, one thing I was really concerned about before I installed the system was syncing the cameras with the monitor. And I got to tell you, when I plugged everything in and turned it on, they were already synced. It's synced automatically. It's got an auto scan feature where you can scan for extra cameras and do it that way, but I just turned it on and they were there. So for me, it was super easy, and I didn't have to go and sync or anything like that. But if you ever do have to sync it, the cameras and the transmitter have a sync button on them that you can push, and I think it gives you 20 seconds to get back down here to the monitor to sync it, so you might need somebody to help you out. But I didn't have to do any of that, so that was kind of cool. They were synced right out of the box. Well, that's all I've got for now. I really appreciate you coming along. Check out Haloview for yourself. I'll put a link in the description below. It's an affiliate link, so use that link to get the cameras you need, and we get a little kickback from that. It doesn't cost you any more, but it is our affiliate link, so I want to let you know about that. And then for a limited time only, use Jonesin to Travel at checkout, and you'll get $20 off your order. So look for the links in the description below, and we hope you enjoyed this video. We hope it was helpful. As always, until next time, safe travels. Bye. So pretty cool stuff. You guys should go check it out. Check out Haloview cameras. They've got all kinds of cameras for different applications, and so far so good.